Welcome, everyone, and a pleasant good evening. My name is Jacqueline Bryan, and I am the host for this evening's Leadership Matters. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and to let you know that Leadership Matters is hosted by Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. He uses this forum to share with you his vision for the country and to update you on matters of national interest. It's also used to hear your concerns and to address your questions. Every week, he is joined by special guests, and this evening, his guests are Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hazel Laws, Medical Chief of Staff at the JNF General Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, and Chief Executive Officer at the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, Raquel Brown. We begin our program weekly with presentations from our guests and the Prime Minister, and we will first hear from the Honorable Timothy Harris.
Thank you very much. Tonight I am pleased to participate in another edition of Leadership Matters. Our focus tonight is on the safe economic recovery of our beloved Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. We want to put a record number of persons back to work and rebuild our country stronger and better. The arrival tomorrow of 21,600 doses of vaccines from the COVAX facility will put St. Kitts and Nevis further on the path to the stronger and safer future. If added to the prior quantity of 20,000 doses, it means we will have the capacity to vaccinate 20,800 citizens and residents, which, if successful, will mean that 60% of our target population of 33,236 can be fully vaccinated. The sooner we achieve this milestone, the better for our country. Our successful management of the COVID-19 pandemic and our economy has been hailed as a best practice. Of all independent countries in our hemisphere, we can speak to the following impressive facts. We have the lowest number of confirmed COVID-19 cases. Our health system is functioning well. We have excess capacity in our hospitals, and our health centers continue to provide regular primary health care services. Our courageous actions and the implementation of a Life First strategy have led consistently to coherent action on all matters. We have done it the right way, for the right reasons, and at the right time, every time. We have no deaths, not one. We have kept our people so very safe. To God we give thanks and praise. 5 months after opening up our borders, we have successfully managed to contain the virus. We have no clusters or community spread. Several countries in the region, unfortunately, are challenged by serious cluster and community spread. We were among the first to pay in advance to procure vaccines. We did this because our people's health, well-being, and lives mattered most. Our early engagement in the COVAX facility assured us access to 21,600 doses of vaccines. Tomorrow we expect to receive these doses after many delays due to vaccine shortage globally and supply chain challenges. I commend all who have intervened to ensure the imminent arrival of these vaccines. I recognize the efforts our Health Minister, the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet, and the Ministry of Health in general, and the Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Dolores Harris, in particular, for the necessary follow-up actions on this matter. Through our bilateral diplomacy at the highest levels of government, we secured 20,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine ahead of the arrival of the COVAX supplies. We are among some of the best performers in the world in our vaccination rollout. We started on the 22nd February 2021, and in less than 7 weeks, we have vaccinated nearly 10,000 persons and will soon inoculate about a third of our target population of 33,236 persons. My heartiest commendations to all who have taken time to get vaccinated. More than 665 million doses of vaccines have been administered across the world through 151 countries, according to data collected by the New York Times as of April the 4th. COVID-19 had brought us the opportunity of developing a new industry, to wit, the film industry. Starting with Below Deck at Park Hyatt and now MSR Productions in 2021, we are expected to have 7 movies made in our federation. Our young people, engaged in videography, photography, stage management, event planning, tours, catering, etc., are the main beneficiaries of the jobs, the income, and talent development which will flow from having these movies being made here. In spite of the devastating impact of COVID-19 and global tourism, confidence in our tourism product remains high. About 5 hotels will be open this year, should all go well. A luxury villa development has recently started at Frigate Bay, and a condo development is expected to get started. Our manufacturing sector is rebounding. The majority of workers have returned to their jobs at Cajola Cristado, Jaro, St. Kitts Bush, Carib Breweries, etc. Exports for the first quarter of 2021 are 12% higher than those of the first quarter of 2020, according to reports from our Comptroller of Customs. Our first homeowners mortgage program continues to grow as more persons seek to get their first home, facilitated by significant duty-free concessions. For the period January to December 2020, 151 applicants were approved. For the first quarter of 2021, so far, 41 applications were approved, with material costs totaling $5.8 million. We are on track to record the largest approvals under this program for the last 6 years. We are working hard with our stakeholders in the cruise industry for a return of cruise lines in the summer under a bubble-style arrangement, and more fully by October 2021 should we achieve herd immunity. I am sure when Ms. Raquel Brown comes to speak, she will speak more about the bubble. Importantly, the first batch of tourists who we are intended to receive must be and will be fully vaccinated. It therefore behoves those who are in the sector to ensure that their frontline and indeed all of their employees are vaccinated if they are to be allowed to participate in the return of the cruise ships to St. Kitts and Nevis. How soon the return to normal? I am frequently asked. I can say that we have embarked on the road to recovery. How quickly we get there depends on you, our citizens and residents, moving quickly to take your vaccine while we have vaccines in stock. I am looking forward to our being able, for example, to host music festival in some form, but that depends on how quickly you get vaccinated. I am looking forward to see 1,400 young explorers on parade on Independence Day 2021. But for this to occur, the parents and guardians and well-wishers of these children have to be vaccinated. I am looking forward to a more traditional sugar mass, but for this to happen, more persons must be vaccinated now. COVID-19 is dependent on each of us taking the necessary precaution to protect ourselves. Let us do so by getting ourselves and our loved ones, indeed encouraging every adult over 18 years to be vaccinated. Let us take action and be vaccinated now. Tonight I am very pleased to have on the panel 3 persons who are no strangers to us. We have our health experts, our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hazel Laws, and I want to welcome her and again commend her publicly for outstanding service at this particular challenging period for the health sector. Equally, I want to welcome Dr. Cameron Wilkinson. He too has given yeoman service to our country at this its most challenging period of existence. I want to welcome Ms. Raquel Brown, who leads the Tourism Authority, to the panel tonight. And she, of course, will update us on what is happening to that sector, how our preparations come in, so that we can be ready to receive the world at the soonest possible time. I can again assure the people of St. Kitts and Nevis that the Cabinet is working hard. The Cabinet appreciates the need to protect lives and to preserve livelihoods. So far, we have done very well, but there's a lot more work for each of us to do. I want to urge everyone to take the vaccination program seriously. And the sooner you become vaccinated, the sooner you contribute to our country being returned to normalcy. Thank you for taking action now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prime Minister. We will now hear from the Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hazel Laws.
Thank you, Ms. Bryan, and a warm good evening to everyone. COVID-19 has infected approximately 131.5 million persons and killed 2.86 million in the world since last January, according to the World Health Organization COVID-19 dashboard. Approximately 30.8 million cases and over 556,000 deaths were reported by the USA alone. CARICOM member states continue to experience an increase in number of cases with over 138,000 confirmed cases and 2,236 deaths. 46% of CARICOM member states are reporting community spread, and there are reports of new variant strains of SARS-CoV-2 virus in the region. The number of COVID-19 cases continue to rise in the 9 Eastern Caribbean islands or territories, with over 11,276 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 144 deaths. Our federation reported 44 confirmed cases so far. All 44 cases have recovered and no significant hospitalizations. Like St. Kitts and Nevis, most Caribbean countries have begun vaccine rollouts. Many persons are asking, how have we gotten here? Tonight, I'm going to provide you a brief overview of our COVID-19 response over the past 15 months. Border surveillance for COVID-19 started as early as January the 23rd last year and continues up until present. Our robust surveillance program kept the virus at bay for the longest. On March 25 last year, our first 2 cases were announced. All schools were closed, and we closed our borders to commercial flights. On March 28, state of emergency was declared, and the first lockdown was announced. This was gradually lifted to facilitate local economic activity. The COVID-19 task force, under the stewardship of Mr. Abdiel Samuel, guided the national response and engaged the people of the Federation. This all-of-society approach is now a best practice. The Health Emergency Operating Center Committee and the Public Health Team carried out the required public health measures and contained the first wave of 19 cases. These measures included COVID-19 testing, contact tracing, monitoring persons in quarantine and isolation. Our borders were reopened on October 31st last year to commercial flights. We have gone 5 full months without any clusters of COVID-19 cases or community transmission. This is noteworthy. The Ministry of Health continues its surveillance program, testing and monitoring of a number of quarantine sites. We are here because of the collective efforts of everyone in society, including all of our frontline workers. Now I'm going to provide you an overview of our COVID-19 vaccination rollout so far. The COVID-19 vaccination rollout was launched on Monday, February the 22nd this year. Our national COVID-19 vaccination deployment and implementation plan provides the roadmap for this rollout. The Ministry of Health also developed and launched a comprehensive education campaign. The aim is to empower our people to make an informed decision regarding acceptance of the vaccine. On February the 11th, the Federation received a generous donation of 2,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines from Dominica. Given the limited supply of vaccines at that time, initially the vaccine was only administered to healthcare workers, border protection staff, and frontline workers along the corridor of containment. However, on March the 1st, we received an additional supply of 18,000 vaccine doses. We then removed all restrictions and universal eligibility came into effect, whereby all adults 18 years and over can access the vaccine at any of our 17 health centers in the Federation. We are expecting an additional 21,600 vaccine doses, and they are scheduled to arrive on island tomorrow afternoon, Wednesday, April the 7th. These doses were accessed through the COVAX facility. This will further increase our capacity, and we will continue our COVID-19 vaccine program across the Federation. The Ministry of Health is making the vaccine accessible to persons in the workplace, in churches, and in the community setting. We have facilitated COVID-19 vaccine education sessions and vaccination sessions at COVID-19 certified hotels, the airports, various banks, churches, Her Majesty's Prison, Social Security, government and private sector facilities, the manufacturing companies, and the community centers. The exact herd immunity threshold for COVID-19 is presently unknown, but recent estimates range from 70 to 90%. To date, we have administered the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine to 9,774 persons, with 7,325 receiving their first vaccine in St. Kitts and 2,449 receiving their first dose in Nevis. So we have reached or covered 29.6% of the target population. The goal is to vaccinate 70% of the population, or just over 33,000 persons, and this is based on data from our last census. The aim is to reduce the risk of having clusters of COVID-19 cases and community transmission, which will overwhelm our health system and decimate the economy. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 vaccine is our best shot at protecting ourselves, protecting our families, and protecting our federation. Hashtag get the facts, hashtag get the facts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Laws. We're now going to hear from the Medical Chief of Staff at the General Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson.
Very much. The Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis has done exceedingly well in the fight against COVID-19. We are grateful that to date we have had no major hospitalizations nor deaths from the virus. As we move towards a full reopening sometime in October, we can expect the virus to return and enter our communities. The difference now, compared to the early days in the fight, is that we have a vaccine available that can protect us. We congratulate the near 10,000 persons who stepped forward and did the right thing and got their first shot, taking us to almost 30% of the target population. We understand the hesitancy by some due in part to misunderstandings or to misinformation. With the arrival of the 21,600 doses of the vaccines tomorrow, I will use my time here to remind you of 10 reasons why you should take the vaccine and hopefully address any unanswered questions when the lines open up later in the program. I will also speak to some changes that you may see in the not-too-distant future once a significant proportion of the population has been fully vaccinated. So why take the vaccine? One, it is free. The COVID-19 vaccine is 100% free. It's available in all 17 health centers in the Federation, 11 in St. Kitts and 6 in Nevis. No appointment is needed, and there is no limitation to access based on priority groups. All you need to do is show up at 1 p.m. Monday to Friday. There are also special vaccine sessions that are advertised for Saturday mornings at some clinics. If you have a business with a large staff, the Ministry of Health will also make it convenient for you by coming on site to vaccinate you and your employees in groups of 10. 2, it has a high efficacy and effectiveness. The efficacy of the AstraZeneca vaccine in clinical trials was 82.4%, and the effectiveness in the general population is way higher once more persons get vaccinated. It also helps to reduce asymptomatic infections and transmission. Even if you get COVID-19 after you are vaccinated, you are protected from getting seriously ill or having prolonged debilitating disease. 3, it saves lives. More than 10,000 persons are dead in the Caribbean region and over 555,000 in the United States and more than 2.8 million worldwide. Getting vaccinated is a sure path to survival. The average case fatality rate of COVID-19 is 3.4%. This means that if 100 persons get the disease, just over 3 persons may die. The case fatality in certain age groups can be even higher. It can rise to 20% for age groups 75 to 79, 32% for ages 80 to 80, 40% for ages 85 to 90, and 47% for persons over 90. This means that the risk of dying from COVID-19 significantly increases in persons over the age of 75. When the country is opened, if you are not vaccinated, you are likely to get seriously ill and may die from the virus, which will come. Getting vaccinated will certainly prevent this. The vaccine is 100% effective in preventing you from getting severely ill and dying from COVID-19. 4, it is safe. The current COVID-19 vaccines have been tested in more patients than previously tested vaccines. Though experience with the current COVID-19 vaccines only covers 6 months for the AstraZeneca, It has been found to be safe in clinical trials for more than 10 years, and the mRNA vaccines like Pfizer and Moderna for more than 3 years. Safety studies were done with the vaccines with tens of thousands of patients, and many millions of persons have already been vaccinated with very little side effects. No one has died from the vaccine, but millions have died from COVID-19. Also, most alleged side effects are probably not caused by the vaccine. Unfortunately, people get sick all the time, independently of COVID-19. Given the size of the COVID-19 vaccination program, it is inevitable that some people will develop health conditions shortly after vaccination, the causes of which have nothing to do with the vaccine. 4, you protect those around you and the vulnerable. Being vaccinated helps prevent you from getting COVID-19, so you are less likely to spread the disease to others, especially the vulnerable. If there are children, grandchildren, grandparents, or elderly persons around you or your friends, then you all should get vaccinated. 5, we need 70 to 90% of the population to be vaccinated in order for COVID-19 to go away. When we keep the R value below 1, we wipe out the virus. The R value is the number of persons an infected person is allowed to infect. The estimate is that the R value for coronavirus is 2.6. So without masking or social distancing, each person who has COVID will give it to 2.6 persons. That number is what allowed scientists to calculate that about 70 to 90% of the people in the population need to be vaccinated in order for the virus to go away. The sooner we get there, the better it is for all of us. We are also in a race against time to stop the virus mutating. The more people who are vaccinated and protected against the strains circulating now, the less opportunity there is for the virus to keep spreading and changing to outsmart the vaccines. 6, to protect your health system. By ending this pandemic through vaccination, we release pressure on the health system so we can then dedicate our efforts, funds, and equipment to helping people with non-communicable diseases and other health matters. 7, to keep you financially strong. The vaccine stops you from getting COVID-19 and getting sick. This stops you from having to be out from work and losing money. It will also bring back our industries adversely affected by the virus, like tourism and entertainment. Your boss, who is currently thinking of closing the business, can now stay open and keep you employed. 8, to protect future generations. Over the course of history, humanity has had to coexist with many debilitating and life-threatening diseases that are now rare due to childhood vaccination programs. Immunizing ourselves against COVID-19 today will help eradicate the virus and protect future generations, allowing them to live a healthier and longer life. 9, to help prevent fake news. Research has shown that fake news spread faster and much further than truthful information. Over the last few decades, conspiracy theories and misinformation have eroded public trust in vaccines, leading to the reemergence of nearly eradicated diseases in many countries. By showing up and getting vaccinated, you are not only protecting yourself and your loved ones from COVID-19, but also setting an example and sending a strong message that you believe in science and you will help fight back against the spread of misinformation. When you show up and you take the vaccine, you may influence others whose hesitancy was hinged on your actions. And 10, and lastly, it is the quickest way for us to get back to normal. Once we reach herd immunity, we can consider changing a lot of the restrictions that are in place to contain the spread of the virus, as the vaccine will give us extra protection. Even before reaching herd immunity, as the number of vaccinated persons increase in the population, changes will be made. We are looking at increasing the number of persons who can attend mass gatherings once you are vaccinated. This means that persons who are fully vaccinated will be able to attend football matches, athletic meets, church services, weddings, and funerals in near normal numbers. Entertainers will be able to organize mass events with increase in the cap way beyond the current figure of 150 once attendees are vaccinated. Outdoor concerts will return. We can soon see entertainers having performers on stage in front of large crowds with limited social distancing once persons are vaccinated. The music festival and private concerts, for example. We can see the return of our national carnival as we once knew it if we reach the threshold of herd immunity. We can also see the quarantine period significantly reduced from the now 14 days for persons returning to the Federation who are fully vaccinated. This will not only allow you to see your loved ones who were unable to travel because of the restrictions, but will bring back visitors and guests to our hotels and revitalize our economy. I am certainly anxiously looking forward to this change, as I haven't seen my children or grandchildren in over a year. It will also allow us to travel and return without being locked away for 2 weeks if we are fully vaccinated. Many of us are longing to escape for a vacation and return to our home or work without the 2-week quarantine. Cruise ships will return, and many businesses dependent on tourism will again begin to thrive once we are vaccinated. The future looks bright and is literally in your hands. Don't hesitate, vaccinate. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wilkinson. We're now going to hear from the Chief Medical Officer at the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, Raquel Brown.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I just want to say from the tourism's perspective that everyone is looking forward to travel. We just heard Dr. Wilkinson speak about it, and I know Dr. Long is like going on vacation because the Prime Minister has had her working for the past year. So everyone wants a vacation. Everybody wants to get out and do something new. But as you heard our chief medical doctors explain to us, the only way to achieve this is through vaccination. And truth be told, if we think about the rest of the world, for tourism to do well, we have to do vaccination. What is the alternative? Well, the alternative is to remain as we are right now, under very controlled measures, and at the same time, really restricting tourism travel, whether it is by cruise or whether it is by stayover. Even if you're coming by yacht, it's very restrictive. So at this point in time, for the tourism industry, for us to really move forward, we have to think of how does vaccination help us as a destination? And it helps us in 2 ways. It helps us first to keep safe. Nobody wants to go to a destination where they have to worry about community spread or they have to worry about clusters. At this point in time, we don't have that issue in St. Kitts and Nevis, and we're hoping and we're praying that we continue to have that positive as a destination to speak about in the travel and tourism industry. And the second thing is we want persons to be able to come here and safe to travel here. It's a two-way street, and it's not easy to persuade many people to take the vaccine. We understand there are a lot of queries, but for the tourism industry specifically, we cannot survive without the vaccination. At this point in time, we have seen where many cruise lines have already mandated that cruise passengers have to be vaccinated. So therefore, my question is to all of our stakeholders, whether they're craft vendors or primate vendors, whether you are our traditional craft vendor, whether you're a retail store owner, whether you are a hoteler that just offers day passes, how then are they going to come to St. Kitts and Nevis if we're not vaccinated? Why would I take a vacation to go to a destination and I'm not vaccinated as a destination to offer safety and security? We have to think about this carefully as we evolve, and we're discussing with some cruise lines at this point in time the opportunity of having summer and fall cruises. It will be a very phased approach, so I would like us all to understand the word phased. Just as we reopened in October 31st, cruise is not going to resume to St. Kitts and Nevis with having 4 or 5 cruise ships. It will be a very phased and very gentle approach to ensure that there's no community spread, to ensure that we keep everyone safe, but also the most important thing is that we keep our health and safety protocols. Yes, we're still going to have to wear masks. Yes, we're going to have a mandate as it speaks to how many passengers can go in a vehicle. Yes, our taxi and tour operators are going to have the plexiglass separation, or they're going to have the Velcro glass separation. You're going to still have to have sanitizers. Those are the minimum standards. So at this point in time, we have about 5,000 we have about 5,000 tourism stakeholders that have gone through the travel approved training. However, we only have to date on record about 423 stakeholders that have taken the vaccine. So hypothetically, if we were to get an opportunity to improve either stay over or cruise to offer opportunities to our tour and taxi and attraction or beach bars, we wouldn't have much diversity and opportunity to do that. The vaccination allows us to do that because we already have bubbles that our hotels operate within. However, we can't do that if we don't have the vaccination, because as Dr. Laws and Dr. Wilkinson keep saying, we have to mitigate the risk, and the vaccine does that for us. It helps us to have the least amount of risk. We do not want to end up like some of our neighbors in the Caribbean region, and we want to ensure that when we reach herd immunity, we have the product without having community spread or having clusters. At this point in time, the tourism industry, we've had a very vibrant presence in the marketplace over the last 2-3 months. Minister Grant and myself, we've done quite a few PR interviews. In fact, St. Kitts for the first time, and this has never really happened in 1 week, we were featured by Travel Weekly, by Travel Pulse, about speaking about the destination, a new definition of success for St. Kitts. St. Kitts and Nevis Protocols Ignite Tourism Relaunch. So we stood out for being unique and different. Very challenged sometimes by journalists why we waited this long, but we explained that we're only 53,000 persons and we have to keep the safety of our nationals and residents first before we bring visitors. But what's important is that for us as a very small country, we were able to get over 338 million impressions for over 181 articles that were interviews that were done between Minister Grant and myself, or persons got information about the destination through our press releases and they wrote about the destination. So, you know, it's very important that we're not only just getting the news out as we remain safe, but we're also getting the news out to the travel trade and also to journalists. And these persons also share information with our travel agents, and consumers, believe it or not, are looking to see where they can travel. Some of our stakeholders may look at Caribbean Journal. We were also featured there, St. Kitts and Nevis model for tourism reopening. So we've been getting quite a very busy and positive feed, and we'll continue to do that. What we're doing right now is hoping to convert that positive energy in terms of the destination being safe, no COVID cases at this point in time, no COVID deaths, to promotion that we have in the marketplace, which is a 5-day getaway, and it's specifically for the United States, and our 3 branded properties are leading in it. And basically the offer includes breakfast for a family of 4, and also it includes a balcony upgrade, automatic upgrade, which doesn't always happen when you get or you rent a hotel room. And it also offers other amenities or inclusions such as spa day or additional gift certificates. So at this point in time, we're trying to offer not only to our traditional market, which is couples, but also families who really do need to get away. Statistics show that married couples want to get away more than anybody else. They want to get away from their kids and they want to get away from their families because they've been locked up with them for the past year. So we're using this as an opportunity, and the travel window is from April 1 to September 5th. That's the end of the Labor Day weekend, but they can only book it between April 1 and July 31st. And we have a very long booking window that's not normal. We usually have like for 30 days, but what we're realizing in the marketplace, to be competitive and we have to be flexible, and so we have a very long booking window. So at this point in time, we are hoping that we will get some incremental travel from this promotion, but also keep St. Kitts and Nevis top of mind to our demographic that will be traveling for Q4, because we see from all of the data in the travel industry, and it doesn't matter where it's coming from, that there's a pent-up demand for persons to travel with Q4 because there's an increasing consumer
a confidence, and it speaks to wanting to travel, and will travel in Q4 because many persons will have the vaccine. So we look forward to hopefully having some more incremental visitations through stayover in the summer, and we hope that through the summer hopefully we could get some cruises, and we hope that come October 1st we'll be ready for, or sometime in October we'll be ready for the start of winter cruise season. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Raquel Brown. We're now going to take a short break, and when we return, we're going to open up the phone lines to hear from you, to get your questions, your concerns, and our panelists are here ready to respond. So stay tuned.
It's only just a phase. Once we're vaccinated, and everybody gon' be safe. Everybody gon' be safe. One kind, yeah. One people. We are roll up to roll up, yeah. Cause no man's alone. Do what's right, alright. Cause I love you, brother, my sister. And we're in this together, my sister, my brother. I don't wanna lose you. I love you too much. I think it's better for us, yeah, yeah. It's better for us, yeah. I don't wanna lose you. I love you too much, yeah, yeah. It's better for us. Tell your mommy to roll up, to roll out.
Bless up, Dejo here, and I'm doing my part in the fight against COVID-19 by following all safety protocols and, most importantly, rolling up my sleeve for the vaccine. So I'm encouraging you to do the same, because that's our best shot of protecting ourselves, our family, and our friends. So don't wait, vaccinate. Let's roll up to roll out.
The rebuilding of tourism starts with taking the vaccine.
I'm taking the vaccine for a healthy nation.
I for sure will be taking the vaccine.
I am taking the vaccine because it's the best way to get back into full swing. Stay safe.
I'm taking the vaccine for my family, for my friends, for my community, and for me.
You know, it's me, Mr. HE, and I'm here with one message: roll up to roll out. We all know how difficult things have been during this COVID-19 pandemic. While we continue to wash our hands, wear our face mask, and practice social distancing, how about we take it one step further and get vaccinated? Call the nearest health center to find out if you are eligible to be vaccinated, or you can contact the Ministry of Health at any one of these numbers down below. Don't be discouraged by the negativity. We all have a role to play in protecting this federation. So, St. Kitts and Nevis, let's roll up to roll out.
Me no know about you, but me don't think it's bad.
Be St. Kitts strong and mask up.
I wear my mask to protect my beloved citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis. I invite you to do so too.
Show your love for St. Kitts Nevis and wear a mask.
Keep St. Kitts strong and mask up when you step out.
I wear a face mask for all the nurses, doctors, and other medical workers who are on the front line.
Do the right thing and wear a mask.
Show the world that we are St. Kitts strong and wear a mask.
I wear a mask so that St. Kitts Nevis remains a safe and healthy destination for me, for you, and our visitors alike.
Say St. Kitts sweet, me no know about you, but me love St. Kitts bad.
St. Kitts and Nevis, let's roll up to roll out. It's our best shot.
Just witnessed the handing over of a generous donation of 20,000 doses of the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine.
It was a kind donation, as India understands that it is important for us to be able to ensure that the entire world is free of COVID-19, and the only way we can do that is through vaccination.
We welcome these additional doses because it would help us to provide a significant coverage, a greater percentage of our population in terms of vaccination against this virus.
And just to note that St. Kitts and Nevis is also paying forward, and we are going to assist the government and people of Grenada by donating 2,000 of those 20,000 to the people of Grenada. And so once again, we just want to thank the government of India, and remember, don't wait, vaccinate.
Welcome back to Leadership Matters, which is aired live on ZIZ Radio and several other stations, including Freedom FM, Sugar City FM, Vaughan Radio, and Win FM. It is also streamed live on the social media platforms of ZIZ and the St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service, also known as SKNIS. You can also look for them on Facebook and YouTube. This program is now available on other platforms, including Spotify and Apple and Google Podcasts. So you have quite a number of options by which to listen to the program and also to view it. The program is hosted by Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, and this evening he is joined by Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hazel Laws, Medical Chief of Staff at the JNF General Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, and Chief Executive Officer at the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, Raquel Brown. We're at that point of the program, I'm happy to say, where we want to hear from you. Yes, you. What are your concerns? What are the questions you have about the vaccine? If you've been vaccinated and you would like to encourage others to do so that we can get to where we need to be as quickly as possible, feel free to do so as well. You can participate in the program by dialing 466-2666, 662-8674, 767-4765, and the international line is 1-239-645-4500. We also have two WhatsApp numbers by which you can participate. You can send voice notes to 660-7168 or send messages to 661-5683. I'll repeat those numbers again, but they are also listed at the bottom of your screen for your convenience. So at this point in time, we're going to go directly to our phone lines and take our first call for this evening. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Hello, good night.
Hi, good evening.
Leadership really matters. I want to say good night to the panelists, and of course, good night to the PM. Leadership matters of the country. This is Bucky Garrett. I have a few questions here that bugged me. One, will the government make it mandatory for civil servants to be vaccinated? I've seen it done in St. Vincent, so I'm wondering if the government have any intention in implementing this. Second, can the PM say if cruise ship passengers will be fully vaccinated when they come? 3, will businesses whose employees not vaccinated be able to do business with the cruise ship passengers? Because I'm sensing that persons will be coming to our shore will be vaccinated. And if our tour operators and businesses are not vaccinated, I can see a conflict, or I can see them saying that if these persons in your country are not vaccinated, then I don't want them to be dealing with our guests. So I'm just wondering. The last one, how many hotels do we expect to be open this year? And the follow-up question to that, is this a sign that saying that there is strong confidence in the government, in what they're doing in this COVID-19? Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for Leadership Matters, and welcome back. You see my daughter for a long vacation. So Ms. Brian continuing a good job of hosting Leadership Matters. And the good doctors and everybody, this is Bucky Garrett, and they will not keep me down, and they will not tell me to hush, and they will not tell me to stop calling every Tuesday, because the people listen to Bucky Garrett. I took my vaccine, it was so easy, I didn't even know the lady put the needle in my arm. And I'm calling someone person to know that the vaccine is safe. There is no side effect that persons are talking about and blood clot and that kind of stuff. No. People just deterring you from moving things forward. And don't let your friend make your decision for you. Work with persons. By saying that quickly, there is a number of persons would be allowed to take the vaccine. Like I think it's 10 persons, because while I was there was 4 persons, and I had to wait for about 10 or 12 persons to be vaccinated. Can that be changed, or you will have to wait for that amount of persons to open a batch of vaccine? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, caller. I wasn't able to completely get your final question. Hopefully one of the panelists did. But if we miss it, I would encourage you to call back, because we want to definitely address all of your concerns. And this program is open to everyone. At no point in time have you ever heard us limit calls or limit questions. So thank you for your contribution. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. Hello, you're live.
Good evening, and how are you?
Good evening, I'm fine, thank you. And yourself?
Okay, I don't know who this question could actually relate to, but I want to say good night to the panelists as well before I say so. However, if you do take the vaccine, both shots of the vaccine, would it be okay for you to travel and don't be quarantined? Thank you. I'll await your answer.
Certainly. Thank you so much for your question. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live. Hello, good evening. Okay, at this point in time, we will address the questions that we have so far. And it's quite a few questions. I believe we can begin with, will the government make it mandatory for civil servants to get vaccinated? Mr. Prime Minister?
The government has not taken any option off the table. Indeed, we are considering every available option to ensure that we reach to herd immunity. What we have is a global pandemic that threatens the very existence of our country and threatens the survival of our citizens and residents unless they were to act responsibly. And so we want responsible behavior, responsible action, and that would require that everyone of their own volition should move to be vaccinated. If we were to do that, given the vaccine hesitancy and the misinformation that is being calculated and being peddled by persons who want and delight in failure, we have to ensure that no stone is left unturned in our efforts to get the country where it needs to go. Dr. Wilkinson outlined 10 reasons why persons should get vaccinated now, not tomorrow. And one of the reality we face is that vaccines are scarce. There is not enough vaccine being produced to be made available to everyone. And therefore, those who are waiting may well find that when they are ready, there's no vaccine for them to take. And that would be a real tragedy. We have worked very hard so that by tomorrow, all goes well. We will have acquired so far over 41,000 doses. And we were looking at about 66,000 doses to get to herd immunity. So we still have a distance to go, but we are getting there every day. And so I want to say that we are considering every option. One of the functions of the state and the government really is to get people to do the right things. And one way in which that occurs is that the government legislate, for example, for appropriate behaviors, sometimes providing sanctions for misbehaviors, and therefore attempt to encourage people to do the right thing. And so, faced with an existential threat to our own survival, the government will not fall asleep. The example of St. Vincent and the Grenadines clearly is one that would have come after consideration. And in fact, that matter has been passed to the Honorable Attorney General to provide guidance. I have also, as the Prime Minister, sought external legal advice and a range of other ideas that have come to me and I think need appropriate consideration. Once we would have received the advice, give appropriate consideration, then the country will advise of the next step. But I want, before perhaps giving one of the health practitioners an opportunity, maybe Dr. Wilkinson, to posit their view on it, to say congratulations to those who are doing right by themselves, their loved ones, and their country. 9,700 plus, almost 10,000 persons understand the wisdom of being vaccinated. Understand that they must do it not just for themselves, but for their loved ones, their co-workers, their country. They must do it for the survival of their business. And one of the matter which, for example, those who are coming on the cruise, when they are vaccinated, will ask, well, what kind of service provider am I going to be engaged if I go to Caribel Batik? Will its workers be vaccinated? And that is an important question. If I go to Carambola, are the waiters, the cashiers, the front line workers, are they vaccinated? Are the principals vaccinated? Because the principals also must show leadership. If I were to go to the bank, is the gentleman that they have at the bank who is taking my temperature, is he vaccinated? Because the vaccination has become almost like the mask, except it is more effective in preventing significant deaths, etc. Well, I should significant illness and eventual death. And so it is one of the 4 critical tools that we need. 1 year ago, when the pandemic started, we said that we had to attempt non-pharmaceutical measures until the vaccine has come. 1 year ago, persons were advised that the ultimate tool that we must have and which they must take advantage of is the vaccine. The vaccine has now come, and some are tarrying and finding all kinds of excuses not to do the right thing. Amazingly, about a week and a half ago, I called Annie McBarnett in London. She is like an adopted mother. She lives in Tabernacle. She's ill. She's in England. And I said, have your sons been vaccinated? She said, oh, not yet, not yet. They have to wait until their age is called. In other words, in England, they are going by age, starting perhaps maybe at 80, the older ones, and they are going down the line. And so I'm not sure if they reach 30 or 40. If they are not yet there, you can't get vaccinated. Here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have opened it up for all and sundry, once you're over 18, to go and get it. It is a privileged opportunity, and persons are wasting it. Opportunities wasted come back to haunt us. And so I would want again to encourage persons to do the right thing, and those who have not yet done so must ask yourself, well, by tomorrow, how come 10,000 persons would have prepared themselves on the road to their second dose to become fully inoculated 14 days thereafter, but I am still not among that 10,000? What am I thinking? What am I doing to my loved ones? And I believe if people begin to think it through, we will have less hesitancy and more persons of their own volition moving to take the vaccine. But Dr. Wilkinson, maybe you can give a medical perspective or a human perspective.
And otherwise, yes.
Dr. Wilkinson, if you could stick a pin in that thought, sir, we'll just take the calls we have on hold and make a note, because we're very much interested in hearing your position on that question. But we'll take these calls. They've been waiting patiently, and we definitely want to hear what they have to say. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live. Hello, good evening.
Hello?
Hello, good evening. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Yes, good evening, Ms. Bryan. Thank you for taking my call and passing it on to the Prime Minister and the rest of the medical team there. Lovely program, as usual. Mr. Prime Minister, this is culture. I want to give God thanks for you as a leader of the Federation. And your example, it shows the whole world that this is good governance, that lead a little small nation like St. Kitts and Nevis to this victorious success that the country has gained over this wicked COVID-19 devil that has killed so many people all over the world. So kudos to you and your team. Now I have one question for the doctors. Suppose someone is tested positive and they have to be in quarantine, and while they are in quarantine, a serious piece of sickness comes on them, that they have to be hospitalized, and after being x-rayed, then they have to be operated on. Now, can the doctors who attend to that individual, can they catch the COVID from them? Because they will have to be closer than 6 feet apart. So that's my question. I listen off the ear. Good program. Now, I want to say something. I want to tell all who in the Federation who have not taken this vaccination yet, do like me. I went for mine early o'clock, and I didn't even know they took me. And after that, I went home and I take 2 big, tall shots of sleep, and I chase with water. And I wake up and I strong like a lion. And I'm going good. I had no side effect, no front effect, no back effect. I'm feeling stronger. So people, do not wait until things get different and then you say, if you didn't know. We always know, but we like to put those 4 words together. We put them behind. Keep them in front and you wouldn't have to say, if you didn't know. Thank you very much. I'll listen off the ear for the rest of the show.
Thank you so much for your contribution. We'll take our next call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Hey, good night, Jackie. Good night, the panel. Good night, the PM. This is Alva Pemberton. I want to take this opportunity to applaud the Prime Minister and the Team Unity government for all the assiduous efforts they're doing in keeping the Federation and National safe during this time. I want to emphatically encourage everyone who have access of obtaining the vaccination to take the vaccination, because the country cannot move forward if people are reluctant to take the vaccination. The borders cannot be fully open and operational if people not taking the vaccination. Like somebody else said before, I don't want to come to St. Kitts and go to the bank or go to a restaurant and not knowing that the employees is not vaccinated when I am fully vaccinated. So I encourage everyone, take the vaccination, take the vaccine, and so that you can protect yourself, protect your job, protect your family, protect your friends. Continue to do your job, the Prime Minister. Continue to keep this country safe and continue to keep everybody informed of what's happening, and may all the medical people continue to advise and keep our country updated with all the things that we need to know. Let them remind them constantly to keep the protocol, wear the mask, and continue to do whatever is necessary to keep the economy in St. Kitts going. Good night.
Good night. Thank you so much for your words of encouragement to others. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good night.
Hi, good evening.
I'm on?
Yes, you are. We can hear you.
Okay. Good leadership, Prime Minister. Best in the world. I'm agree with Bucky about the civil servant, because you know them too have to face people, right? And if the hardwares and supermarket people must have to take it, because them inside will tend to people outside, and the people then will have to get in. So I want to know. And if I forget now, you know. Anyway, I can't remember what I wanted to say later. Good night.
Hopefully, we'll be able to take more calls before we wrap up this segment of the program. So as soon as you remember, you call back. Thank you so much. Before we went back to the phone lines, Dr. Wilkerson was going to contribute to the question, will government make it mandatory for civil servants to get vaccinated?
Yes, I just want to share my view on that. First of all, we have to understand that the vaccine is free and it has proven to be effective in containing the disease. If one does not take the vaccine and we have community spread, we will have to have lockdowns and curfews, and those are mandatory, and they come at great personal costs and at significant costs to businesses. I believe that we all have a personal responsibility in this fight, and so if you are a frontline worker or if you're a civil servant, you have a responsibility to roll up your sleeve and take the vaccine, because eventually you will become a risk not just to others who are around you, but the entire organization. And so with that said, if someone in the private sector were to ask me if I think that the vaccine should be mandatory, after we have finished all of these education sessions and we're appealing to persons' sense and sensibility and clearing up all of the misunderstanding and misinformation, if persons still insist on not getting the vaccine, I would advise the private businesses to make the vaccine mandatory. If the Prime Minister were to ask me what I think as to whether or not the vaccine should be mandatory, again, after we have finished all of these, appealing to persons and educating them, etc., for the survival of the country, I would recommend to him that the vaccine be mandatory. But I wait for him to ask me.
We also have two questions. The first is, will cruise passengers need to be fully vaccinated in order to visit the Federation? Well, we have another call. We'll take this call and then we'll go back to our questions. Quite an interactive program this evening. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Yes. What I forget to say.
Yes.
The Prime Minister was saying when the vaccine finish, right? So those people that I speak about didn't get, what will happen to them? They will still continue working? Okay, thanks.
I told you we would take your call. I'm happy you remember. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alice.
We had a question about whether cruise passengers who visit the Federation will need to be fully vaccinated, and an interesting follow-up question in that asking, will business employees who have to interact with these visitors need to be vaccinated? So if someone could address that.
So yes, cruise ship passengers will have to be fully vaccinated. It's already a requirement. We see it with specifically Crystal Serenity. We see it with also Vision of the Seas that's being sold for Bermuda. So we see it, which is a Royal Caribbean vessel. We're already seeing that the precedence is requiring that persons going aboard the cruise ship, passengers, they have to be vaccinated and fully vaccinated, not that you have one shot. However, that does not change the RT-PCR requirement 72 hours before from their home port. As it speaks to stakeholders, for us here in St. Kitts and Nevis, with the vaccination and for tourism, it is our goal to have 100% compliance among the tourism industry. Why? It is safer for us if everyone in the tourism industry that interacts, and that means anyone in the tourism industry. So whether you're a craft vendor, whether you're a St. Kitts Tourism Authority employee working down on the cruise pier, or you're up at the airport, or you're a SCASPA employee, your immigration, your customs, you're a tour operator, you're a taxi operator, it is only safer for you to be operating, and it is going to be the requirement for us initially as we do a phased opening, because it is the safest way. We cannot afford to not just have just the protocols. We also have vaccination at this point in time. So we will still have to observe the health and safety protocols. Yes, you still have to wear a mask. Taxi and tour operators, the plexiglass separation or the Velcro separation will be required. None of that is going to change. These requirements are to keep us safe. You will keep hearing Dr. Laws and Dr. Wilkinson speak to ensuring that we don't have community spread or we don't have clusters. If someone gets ill, we have very minimal symptoms dealing with COVID-19. We cannot afford to reach this far, and our tourism industry does not maintain the protocols that we had in place before and also have the requirement for vaccination. So we like to look at it as bubble vaccinated tours that will be approved. They'll be called travel approved tours, and we hope that all our stakeholders will understand that if a cruise passenger is being required to be vaccinated to come on the itinerary that includes St. Kitts, we can only ensure that their visit to St. Kitts for the 8 hours is safe, not only with our health and safety protocols, but also through vaccination.
Thank you so much for that response. The caller asked a fourth question that I didn't quite get. I don't know if anyone was able to understand what he was asking.
How many hotels?
How many hotels will be, okay, if you can address that one. Mr. Prime Minister.
Hillsborough Suite. We have Trinity Sunset Hotel. We are looking at Ramada also, and then there's Seaview in the West Barnsley area. I forget the full name, but we refer to it as the Seaview Hotel. So at least 4 of them, and we expect also that phase 1 of the Tilloff property, really that they should advance to completion during the course of the year. And then the follow-up question was, is it a sign of confidence in the economy? And I think most definitely so. When persons, notwithstanding tourism, is at its lowest state. For a long time in history, perhaps maybe akin to the 9/11 incident, where no one really wanted to travel. And notwithstanding, a number of developers are investing in the country to be ahead of the game. I want personally to commend one of them, Dr. Ken Ballantyne, who is doing the Hillsborough Suite at the McKinley site. That is advancing very well. We had the opportunity, I think it was when did we go, Raquel? To Trinity Suite. I want to thank the 2 developers who are there. Their names elude me right now, but I want to thank both of them. These are persons from abroad who had come to the country, fell in love in it, and determined that they were going to do something unique. What is there is very unique, very special. They have created a secret there of something wonderful and beautiful, and it is a significant investment which I know will do wonders to our tourism brand. So we look forward to those. The facility at Ramada is over 200 plus rooms. And so that is a significant project. Last week, Mrs. Doretta Freites, who had our investment agency, would have done a tour and would have reported to me that things are in train to ensure the opening of that facility during the course of the year. And that's a Ramada brand. The Tilloff property also would add a significant number of rooms to the hotel stock. Equally important, though, is the additional rooms that will come from the Cove project at what we call the Jack Tower, or more appropriately the Royal St. Kitts property there in Frigate Bay. And they have now also, maybe the last 2 weeks or so, started another investment in some luxury villas which will be going to the market at $1 million US. So that is a significant investment that is taking place. Not too far from them, a dilapidated property has new ownership, and we are expecting that a condo hotel will emerge from that. So there is confidence in the management capability of the government as a whole, in the ability and the excellent success of the government so far in keeping us as a safe destination, one of the best managed. And so at the end of it, Raquel spoke to the pent-up demand, and that when that begins to flow, we are hoping that we will have enough rooms to add to the attractiveness of St. Kitts and Nevis as a premier tourist destination.
Several calls on the line, so clearly this is generating quite a bit of interest among the listening public. We'd like to take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Good night, Prime Minister. Good night to everyone.
Good evening.
Yes, good night to the panel and good night, Prime Minister. This is Ms. Unity here. Prime Minister, I want to thank you and your panel to make it possible every Tuesday night to make yourselves available to everyone. Tomorrow you're going to hear them on the radio talk to asking one another question, and you make yourself available every Tuesday night. This is the right time for them to call in and ask questions. Prime Minister, thank you for everything, what you've done and what you're about to do. Okay? And when you boast, I say you like to boast. But when you boast on your performance, not what you have. Because anybody doing anything and they're doing it good and people giving them credit, boast some more. And that is what we call good governance. Okay? Thank you for everything. And I have a question for the doctor. If you're allergic to aspirin, how you think you take the vaccine? And yeah, because I know I'm allergic to aspirin. I don't know. I want to take the vaccine, but I don't know. But I'll check with my doctor first, okay? So, and everybody have a safe journey home. And Prime Minister, you keep on dreaming big, never small. Let the haters, the dumb pressers, and the losers, let them keep on talking.
Thank you, Ms. Unity.
Thank you so much for your contribution to the program. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Hello, good night.
Hi, good evening.
Let me say good night to all the ladies that are there. And let me say good night to the best doctor in the world. When you hear that, you're going to know who. Yeah, question to the Prime Minister. Teachers were decide to take the vaccine. How did that going to go about going into children who get them sick? They ain't decide to take the vaccine, and I want to know what's going to happen. All the best. Good night.
All right, thank you so much for your question. Good. You have a good night. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership. Good evening. Was that our final call? Welcome to Leadership Matters. Okay, I think we lost our final call, but you might just have some time to try back. We'll continue with the questions. We have a number of interesting questions. This one asks, if you do take both shots of the vaccine, do you still have to get quarantined?
I said in my presentation that these are things that we are looking at, but until we get to a certain level of vaccinations within the community, we would not be able to reduce the quarantine period. And that's why I'm appealing to everyone out there who is over the age of 18 who can take the vaccine. You need to make sure you roll up your sleeve and take the vaccine so that we can open up the country. There was also a question asked about why we only give 10 shots as opposed to 3, because a caller said that they had 3 persons there and they were waiting, and the CMO has said before, the vials, they have 10 doses, and if we only use 3, you'll be wasting 7, and that's why we will vaccinate persons in groups of 10. Somebody also asked about if somebody has COVID and they have to be operated, what would happen? One can safely operate on someone who has COVID-19. We must understand that the main route of transmission is via respiratory droplets. And so once the anesthesiologist takes the necessary precautions, and we have special hoods at the hospital that are used for COVID-19 patients, where you can put it over the person's head as you intubate the person to control the droplets. And then the surgeon who is operating on the rest of the body, he is at no risk. And in the operating theater, we wear masks, etc. normally, so the risk of one getting infection is very low. And we have operated on persons since they have been in quarantine. None of them have been positive, but we take the necessary precautions and everybody was fine.
Dr. Laws?
Regarding that question about the opening of a vial for 10 persons, it's very important to note that the vaccines are free to the people in our federation, but they come at a high cost, and there's a supply of the vaccine is not adequate for the demand at this time, and so we really do not want to waste any of the doses. And so I want to recommend that if you come in for your vaccine, bring 9 other persons with you, and so you don't have any wastage. So bring along 9 friends, and so you can have a vial and you can get vaccinated right away. In terms of that other question about your wanting to travel, having been fully vaccinated, and then coming back, and what would be the quarantine situation. And so we are looking at that very closely right now. Based on the science and the data on the COVID-19 vaccines, the vaccines do not really prevent transmission, and so that's the issue. But we are hoping that if we are able to vaccinate a significant proportion of our population, we can then look at reducing the quarantine period or even eliminating the quarantine. So again, that ball is in your court. We want persons to accept the vaccine, help us to reach the herd immunity threshold, so then we can relook the whole quarantine requirement. Another caller asked about if she's allergic to aspirin, is that a contraindication to getting the vaccine? And so based on the science and the literature regarding the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine, allergy to aspirin is not a contraindication to taking this vaccine.
And I just want to add some more on that, because it's a common question. People will ask about allergies to aspirin, penicillin, etc. And even if you have allergies, once you're not allergic to anything that is within the vaccine, you can safely take it. And just to repeat again, the contents of the vaccine, something called histidine hydrochloride, which very few persons are allergic to it, magnesium chloride, polysorbate 80, and it's only the polysorbate 80 that very few persons have allergies to this. So unless you are known to be allergic to polysorbate 80, you can take the vaccine. The other constituents are ethanol, sucrose, which is sugar, sodium chloride, which we all are exposed to, and water for injection, and EDTA.
Paula alluded to teachers in the Ministry of Education and vaccination, and that's a very good question because at present the AstraZeneca vaccine is not given to children under 18. And so if you're a teacher at a secondary or primary school, you'll be exposed to a classroom of children or a whole school of children who can become infected. And so teachers, it's recommended that you protect yourself and your families by accepting the vaccine.
And the students too.
And yes, and you're protecting the students also.
And I think that raises a lot of serious other questions about other sectors, because it's similar to the one asked about the tourism sector and persons engaging with visitors. So I guess whatever you said in relation to that and the teachers, we can consider for other sectors as well, including the civil service. We had one final question from our callers. What will happen to persons who are not yet vaccinated when the vaccines run out?
We have 20,000 doses, and that would provide coverage for 10,000 individuals. Tomorrow we are going to get another 21,600, which would provide coverage for 10,800 persons. And then Cabinet, the government is doing all it can in terms of accessing the additional doses of vaccine that is required. So from where we sit, I doubt we would run out.
Fantastic.
Unless there are production difficulties, and we have had some delays in production that have impacted the global supply. So we have to keep our fingers crossed. And that is why the urgency of now must pervade the minds of people. While we have it, now is the time to step forward and take it. We do not produce it here. We do not produce it here. We will have to go find producer to get it. And that has all the troubles of supply chain issues. I mean, initially, for example, we were expecting tonight that our own quota of the vaccine would have been here. We ran into supply chain difficulties, and we are now expecting tomorrow. A word to the wise is enough.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prime Minister. At this point, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we'll continue with your questions and concerns.
You know, it's me, Mr. HE, and I'm here with one message: roll up to roll out. We all know how difficult things have been during this COVID-19 pandemic. While we continue to wash our hands, wear a face mask, and practice social distancing, how about we take it one step further and get vaccinated? Call the nearest health center to find out if you are eligible to be vaccinated. Or you can contact the Ministry of Health at any one of these numbers down below. Don't be discouraged by the negativity. We all have a role to play in protecting this federation. So, St. Kitts and Nevis, let's roll up to roll out.
Me no know about you, but me don't think it's bad.
Be St. Kitts strong and mask up.
I wear my mask to protect my beloved citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis. I invite you to do so too.
Show your love for St. Kitts Nevis and wear a mask.
Keep St. Kitts strong and mask up when you step out.
I wear a face mask for all the nurses, doctors, and other medical workers who are on the front line.
Do the right thing and wear a mask.
Show the world that we are St. Kitts strong and wear a mask.
I wear a mask so that St. Kitts Nevis remains a safe and healthy destination for me, for you, and all visitors alike.
Say St. Kitts sweet. Me no know about you, but me love St. Kitts bad.
Welcome back to Leadership Matters. We are joined this evening by Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hazel Laws, Medical Chief of Staff at the JNF General Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, and Chief Executive Officer at the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, Raquel Brown. This program is hosted by Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris to keep you updated on what's going on in the country. And this evening, we are having a very engaging discussion about this recovery process moving forward and making it safe for not only persons here in St. Kitts and Nevis, but visitors to the Federation. We're going to go back to the phone lines. We have some remaining calls, and we're going to try our best to take everyone who's on the line. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. PM. Good evening, panel. Welcome back, Mr. PM. We've missed you. I hope you don't stay so long, distance yourself from us for such a long period again. Just a quickie. Of those almost 10,000 persons who have received the vaccine, are statistics being kept as to the different age groups that have been most receptive to the promotion so far? Because based on that, one would then be able to recognize, hopefully, the areas where the education has not been most effective, and you can then design new education programs or jingles to get those persons who have seemed reluctant to become involved. I'm thinking in particular about the ages of 18 to say 35. I imagine those would be a good group, a difficult group to get motivated. But I'll listen for your comments off here. Thank you.
For your question. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I have a question. Would it not be wise to have those taxi drivers who usually take people from the airport, from the jets and so on, to take them to the quarantine sites and so forth, would it not be wise to have them all vaccinated? And I would also like to make an appeal to all of my fellow citizens. What are we waiting for? You may ask, are we not having carnival? Are we not having a music festival? Are we not having Culturama? My answer is this: how could you have those activities if you're not vaccinated? We have to first protect ourselves so that when other people come in, we can be safe. The other people can't come in and being vaccinated, and we who are here are not being vaccinated. Citizens, Nevisians, wise up. Get vaccinated today. Thank you very much.
Very much for your question and your words of motivation to others. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First of all, I want to say many thanks to all of you, the Prime Minister, first of all, for having this beautiful show. It's a very informative show. I thank all the people who came out to help us to learn about everything. I am a senior citizen. I have been vaccinated, which I'm very proud of. And I speak to people every day, and they give me such stupid, ignorant excuses that I don't know how to correct them or what. But my main question really is the cruise ships that are coming in and we're planning to come in. There will be the people on the cruise ship, I understand, will be fully vaccinated like I would be. But now, what about the quarantine period? Because they just walk off to the ship. They just walk off the ship and join me. I go to pick them up, let's say. What is the quarantine story there as regards the hope or trust, or will they have some sort of test today? They're leaving the ship to come ashore. I'm just putting all these things out because I'm sitting here worrying about them. So have a good night, and thank you very, very much for taking my call.
You have a good night as well, and thank you very, very much for participating in our program. That was a very interesting question, and I'm sure it will be well answered. So we can take these few questions that we have. I'm told that was our final call, and then we'll go to our WhatsApp messages. Of the almost 10,000 that have already been vaccinated, our stats being kept about the age groups.
John, and so we have data entry clerks presently working, entering this data into our new database, and so by tomorrow we'll be able to provide data in terms of the demographics of the individuals who would have received the vaccine, and this will guide our education program going forward. It would help us to be more targeted in terms of the other demographics who we have not reached and who have not accepted the vaccine as yet.
It was also asked if persons, taxi operators rather, who are transporting visitors from the airport to the quarantine site, if they should not definitely be on the list of persons to be vaccinated.
Yes, they should be. And at this point in time, we only have 50 taxi operators that are vaccinated of about 500. So if we really think about it, that's really not anywhere not even near 10%. And also if we're thinking about the resumption of cruise, our taxi and tour operators are essential part of providing the service, whether or not you're an independent or whether or not you do pre-booked. So at the end of the day, if a passenger is coming off a cruise ship, I'd like to say for phase reopening, if we are really trying to ensure that we're keeping everyone as safe as possible to mitigate the risk that comes about with bringing international travelers to St. Kitts by cruise, if we get to that position, our taxi operators offering tours or tour operators offering tours will have to operate bubble vaccinated tours, because they are interacting with high-risk travelers, and it is for the safety of the Federation. At this point in time, we're still very early in the protocols as it speaks to Port Zante. We know Port Zante is an open port. We're the only open port in the Caribbean. It has been to an asset to us for reaching 1 million passengers 2 years in a row in 2018 and 2019. And we're known for it because visitors get to walk off and it's not a controlled environment and they get to experience the culture. However, in COVID-19, that same experience cannot be had, and it's also a liability. So we have to look at the operations of Port Zante, and we have to be realistic that what used to be cannot necessarily be during this transition time, as many people are getting the vaccine. If we restore cruise, or if cruise starts in a phased approach, we have to also be realistic of how we manage that. We can't just have persons if we're not at 70% herd immunity, we can't have cruise passengers just come off and enter Port Zante as we had in the past. So I hope everyone is understanding that it is about ensuring that our tourism product remains safe, and the only way we can do that are with the health and safety protocols that we have in place, and also to get vaccinated. That is how we maintain our safety and maintain our tourism product.
Would you like to contribute to that? As it stands now, we know there's a 14-day quarantine period for persons arriving by plane, but what about cruise ships?
Yeah, but I just wanted to answer the two of them in short. For the taxi drivers, the same way early on in this fight, we mandated that the taxi drivers put up the plexiglass separation, that they wore masks, that they hand sanitize. When we open the country, taxi drivers will have to understand that they will have to be vaccinated, because the persons themselves who are coming into the taxis, they're going to be demanding that our taxi drivers be vaccinated. So we're encouraging you to get ahead of the game by coming forward and get vaccinated so that we can open up. As it relates to the cruise ship passengers, in short, what Raquel was saying, when we have the tours starting in the near future, they will be in bubbles, and so persons will not be coming off the cruise ship and walking into the general public, and so they would be at specified destinations, moving in a bubble and not interacting with the general public. And so that would not be in contradiction to persons who are coming in to stay and being quarantined, because they will quarantine itself is a bubble also. Thank you.
I wanted to add, in terms of the taxi drivers in our context are considered frontline workers along the corridor of containment. And so it's very important that they come on board in terms of accepting the vaccine. Now, in terms of the cruise ship passengers, I understand the anxiety of the caller in terms of, she's concerned about herself and her safety. And so going forward, anybody coming on a cruise ship, the cruise ship passenger, they would be required to do testing prior to going to the home port. They would be required to test before coming into this destination. And so these are health and travel protocols that would be in place to protect you and the people of our federation. And as Dr. Wilkinson said, they will be moving in a bubble. So they will be moving from the cruise ship in a COVID-certified ground transportation to select attraction sites, whereby you would have employees who are fully vaccinated and then moving via select ground transportation back to the ship. And so they weren't, the cruise ship packs would not be intermingling and interacting with the general public. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your contribution to the response to those questions, very important questions. And we also have questions that would have coming via WhatsApp, and we'll go to those now. This first one asks, how is it that a major hotel in Nevis allows guests to be in a bubble and use the facilities such as the beach for their quarantine guests, while hotels lock down their guests in the rooms in St. Kitts? I'm not aware of that. Raquel Brown, can you speak to that?
We don't, and I'll have Dr. Laws and Dr. Wilkinson also speak to it, but I don't know of any person who comes to St. Kitts and Nevis for vacation in place that you're locked down in your room for vacation in place. They may be at a property that only does quarantine. We know at this point in time that we've had some challenges with some properties, but at this point in time, if you're coming for vacation in place, it clearly specifies you vacation in place, you're on the property, and you get to experience all of the amenities and services on the property 1 to 7 days. 8 to 14 days, you're allowed to take the highlights of St. Kitts tour, which has been approved by the task force, and also to tour Brimstone Hill. Those have been the approved tours at this point in time. So I'm not quite sure what is a misunderstanding. I think there may be a misunderstanding of what is a vacation in place versus what is quarantine for nationals and residents.
Yes. They were mixing up persons who go into quarantine as opposed to persons who vacation in place.
Yeah. Thank you so much for providing clarity on that matter. We have this question that asks, heard some talk that the AstraZeneca requires 6 shots and not 2, and the task force is not being honest with the public. Kindly advise.
So the dosing schedule for the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine is 2 shots or 2 jabs given 10 weeks apart. So it's just 2 injections given 10 weeks apart. So you come today for your first jab, and you'll be given a 10-week appointment for your second jab. So the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine, 2 shots. That's it.
And I just want to mention something also, because the person said they heard some talk. And what I want to advise you is to make sure that you get your information from a reputable site. And so if you're still not convinced, you can go to the World Health Organization site. You can go to the Pan American Health Organization, any reputable site, and you will get the information that tells you it is only 2 shots and not 6.
And in an era where misinformation is so problematic, I think doing your own research or putting your question to the experts, as you've done tonight, works well. So if you have misconceptions and we have the experts here on Leadership Matters to address your concerns, then by all means, yes, please ask them so we can get clarity on that matter for you. This question asks, speaking to several persons, there are a number of reasons why they are saying they will not take the vaccine. Some say that they are going to be part of the 30%, and some say they will take it, but they are not ready yet. My question is, if we do not arrive at the 70% by the end of October, for example, would there be a further relaxation of the protocols?
I would start by saying that I think that we are doing quite well so far with the vaccination program, having near 10,000 persons vaccinated in just over 4 or 5 weeks. And when we do the projections as to the rate at which we are vaccinating persons now, we should reach to herd immunity by the end of October or sometime in October. The reason why we have these sessions and we appeal to everyone who has a platform is to help us increase the numbers and to get there much quicker. We saw in the United States that President Biden had put a certain landmark down, and he shortened it because the vaccine uptake was increasing significantly, and we are hoping that over the next few weeks we can see that. And so I'm going to use this forum to appeal to the clergy, the persons from the church, to the businesses, to persons in tourism, the teachers, the small business operators, the persons who have a mic on radio stations. You all have a part to play in this fight, and by you coming on board, we can get there quicker. And so we just need to think positive and say with all hands on deck, we would get to herd immunity.
Okay, so part of that question is some say that they are going to be part of the 30%. Now that worries me because our children under 18 already make up 30%. And so if you're going to be an adult and choose to be a part of that, it means you won't, you're making that choice will hinder us reaching our herd immunity threshold. And so we want individuals to understand that already our children under 18 years already make up the 30%. So this herd immunity threshold, basically if we are successful in vaccinated our adults, 70% of our population, you will be providing indirect protection for our children who are under 18. And the few, maybe 1% of adults who have chronic conditions and are unable to take the vaccine. For example, you may be a cancer survivor undergoing chemotherapy, and at this point in time, you are not in a position to take the vaccine. Those are the individuals who can rely on the other adults for protection. And so we want to advise individuals against thinking in this manner.
This person asks, I intend to travel to the United States of America towards the end of April. I want to take the vaccine, but I am fearful that it will give a positive test when I do the PCR test 3 days before travel. I have heard of persons who are vaccinated and did a rapid test and showed positive for COVID. What do you advise I do?
The PCR test for the viral replication in the nostrils of persons who are positive with COVID-19. The vaccines do not give you the virus. It builds your immune system to a certain part of the virus, and so there is no positive test that you would get if you are vaccinated. And so you can get the vaccine today, tomorrow, and be tested anytime. Once you do not have COVID-19, you would not test positive for the virus.
This person asked, what if someone gets sick from taking the vaccine? What is the procedure?
All right, so if you've taken the vaccine and you become ill, we advise that you make contact with the nearest health center or the hospital, and you will be treated accordingly. So that's not an issue.
This person asks, good evening, I would like to know they said their birthday is on the 10th of May, and the second dose of the vaccine that they're supposed to take is also due on the 10th of May. They're saying that the first vaccine they took had them out for about a week, so they want to know if it's possible that they can delay taking the second dose until after their birthday.
The answer is yes. One of the reasons why we say that it's given at 10 weeks, it's given at 10 to 12 weeks. And so you have a 2-week hiatus during which you can get the vaccine. And so for those persons who had the vaccine 10 weeks ago, if your 10-week day is today, you can have it today, tomorrow, up to 14 days after that required date.
This person asks, wouldn't it be a good incentive for employers to incentivize their employees as a way of having more persons vaccinated?
I guess the answer is yes, but one of the incentives you have is keeping your job, because with out the vaccination businesses will go under. There are a number of persons who have been laid off, who were furloughed, etc. And so rolling up your sleeve and taking the vaccine is an incentive for you to keep your job. There might be employers who might go forward and give you other incentives, but I believe that you have a personal responsibility to take the vaccine.
Your own personal health, yes.
Yes.
And finally, our final WhatsApp question asks, how are you going to verify visitors have been vaccinated before they step on the soil of the Federation?
Well, I believe that vaccination programs are international. They are same way when persons travel and they have to have a yellow fever vaccine, the same way when persons travel and they have to go to university and have to show their vaccination cards. You would have verifiable forms of confirming that someone is vaccinated. One is not going to just be able to show up and say, I'm vaccinated and walk into the country.
In the event that someone is not familiar with that procedure, can you explain what happens when you have to travel and you have to prove that you're vaccinated?
So just what pertains with yellow fever, when I was going to Brazil, I had to show my yellow card to the airline before boarding the flight to Brazil. And so same thing. So in other words, if it's a requirement, so the airlines at the counter and the country where you're coming from won't allow you on board without the evidence of your being vaccinated. Or, I mean, everything is electronic. We could have persons upload, a copy of their card, onto our entry system, etc. So there are different ways in which this can be done.
Yeah, and it's important for you to note that the vaccine come with a batch number, and so that can be checked. And that will be on your vaccination card. So you just can't put COVID-19 vaccine and think that you can walk into a country. There are verifiable things that you can do.
Okay, so we've pretty much come to the end of our questions where the Leadership Matters program is concerned. It was quite an engaging conversation, quite a number of calls and messages. Thank you all so much for participating in the program and making it what it is on a weekly basis. And we're going to have closing presentations in the reverse order of how we began. So we're going to begin with the Chief Executive Officer of the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, Raquel Brown.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I would just like to say that we've been greatly affected for the past year. We have seen where tourism, up to 2019, we had a very successful year. And for the last 5 years of cruise tourism and also stayover tourism. We didn't have to worry necessarily about what plane we wanted to fly on. We had availability of planes. We had availability of if we wanted to leave in the morning or if we wanted to leave in the afternoon. We saw many persons who had transitioned from other sectors or other employment opportunities. They came into the tourism industry because it offered them to own their own business as a tour operator or other beach bar services. It also offered for the person, the average person on the street, to offer a service as simple as you may look at it, our primate vendors who we trained and we worked with for the last 5-6 years, excluding last year, for them to raise their standards and to really offer an opportunity for them to earn a living. We have to stop and think about our health of our nation. We also have to think about how we're going to rebuild tourism. And rebuilding with tourism has always started with the vaccination process, because we have seen how difficult it has been over the last year, where we've seen other destinations, they have started, they have had community spread, and it could just be from one visitor. We've seen situations where we've seen crews try to resume without vaccination as early as last year, August, and we saw what happened with that specific cruise. So we understand how important tourism is to St. Kitts and Nevis. Many persons may say we need to diversify. Yes, we do need to diversify our product and what we do have to offer. And the Prime Minister spoke to the variety of hotel room stock or tourist accommodations that are coming on board. We are greatly dependent on cruise tourism. As I've said, we've never reached 150,000 stayover visitors. There are some destinations such as St. Lucia where they've doubled that number and they're close to 500,000. Marquis, they have pre-COVID 7,000 hotel rooms. But it's realistic for us to understand that stayover tourism is an opportunity for us. We need to look on it as an option. We need to look at film as an opportunity for the destination to be showcased, and we're seeing the opportunities right now, as the Prime Minister spoke about. Most persons don't realize that MSR Media is Lionsgate. Most persons in St. Kitts and Nevis know about Tyler Perry Movies. Lionsgate is one of those big production houses. So there are a range of opportunities. However, no matter what the opportunity is, we need to have vaccination. That's the only way we're going to allow persons to come into the Federation and to remain safe. I find it interesting that there are many Caribbean nations who would love to have the vaccination quotas that we have, and we may be refusing to take the vaccine, where they're struggling and they need persons to take, they need vaccines. So we are very blessed in St. Kitts and Nevis for the past year. We've had no deaths, we've had no community spread. For us to get to the point of reopening, for persons to earn the living or to restart earning, and it doesn't matter where they sit. If you think about a supermarket, you think at a regular bar, you think of just additional ancillary services, everyone benefited when tourism did well. There are many mechanics that I know, they were doing very well when cruise was doing well. They don't have that many taxi buses to service anymore, so it does have a trickle-down effect. So I'm saying that the vaccination process is going to help us as a nation to be healthy. It helps us to have a resistant population. It helps us to be not have to worry about persons having to go to the hospital. It doesn't place a stress on our health system, and it allows us in not having to deal with those issues. We have a healthy society. So I ask for those persons that you're having doubts. I don't know what the doubts were about, because any of us who were born post-1970, we had to line up and get a vaccination. There were no questions asked when we had to go to school. We just got the vaccine, and if we were going to school, we couldn't go to school if we didn't get the vaccine. So I say to you, please get the vaccine. As Dr. Law said, think of your children, think of tomorrow. This is not just about today. COVID-19 is around for a very long time. They've said at least for the next 2 years, and then what if? Many of us thought in the tourism industry, I thought this was going to be over from June last year. Here we are. So we have a long road to go, and the vaccination is the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brown. We're now going to hear from the Chief Medical Officer at the Medical Chief of Staff, at the JNF General Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson.
I just want to end by saying one thing. Years ago, many persons did the right thing and rolled up their sleeves and got vaccinated against diseases like smallpox, measles, mumps, and rubella, so that we don't have to deal with those diseases in our federation right now. It is now your turn, and you need to do the responsible thing and roll up your sleeve and get vaccinated against COVID-19, so our future generations do not have to deal with it. So I'm asking you, it's a very simple thing. We know that the vaccines are safe, they are effective, and they can save lives. So I'm asking you tomorrow to go to your nearest health center and get vaccinated.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wilkinson. We're now going to hear from the Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hazel Laws.
Ladies and gentlemen, our federation is small. We've only reported 44 cases. All have recovered, 0 deaths. However, the impact of this pandemic on the Federation has been significant. It has impacted us psychologically, socially, and economically. Based on the science, vaccination is our only hope. Tonight, I am appealing to those of us who are still undecided. Please empower yourself with the facts. The information is there. We've been providing this on a daily basis. We are looking at you, and we are hoping that you can come on board. Get the facts, get the vax.
Thank you so much, Dr. Laws. And we are going to hear finally from Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, who hosts this program weekly. Dr. Harris?
Thank you very much, Jackie. Let me commend you for being an excellent moderator. Certainly the callers love you, so we get more of them each week. But tonight has been a very productive and informative session, and I want to commend all those who were brave enough to call and to say precisely what was on their minds. We have learned a lot about our people, about what truly matters to them. And so it's a learning experience each time we come on Leadership Matters. We value not only the questions, but several of the callers put important ideas and suggestions and get us thinking about alternative ways of getting the job done. So again, thank you to all those who tune in. Each occasion, we have an average 15,000 plus people participating across the various platforms of ZIZ social media. So I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the staff, support staff of ZIZ for doing an excellent job and for doing all these subtle rearrangements of the studio to give it the best impact and for making our lives more comfortable. I want to acknowledge Bucky Got It for being a regular and each time putting questions. I don't believe they're all his questions. I believe that he's taking questions from people and he's asking on their behalf. So I want to commend you and in that regard to say soldier on behalf of your fellow villagers and of course your residents and citizens here. And don't let anyone take your voice away because you are the people's media. I want to thank Alice, because Alice is the lady who called back. So devoted she is. And at her age, her mind is still ticking very well. So she speaks for herself and for a wide audience. Let me commend the panelists, our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hazel Laws, and Dr. Cameron Wilkerson. They both have taken on this as if really this was life itself, and it is. One of the major challenges that we face as a nation and a people in this century. And at no other time has there been a crisis that has resonated and ricochets in such a wide way as this has. It started as a health pandemic, but it has now taken on other dimensions, and one of which is has delivered a devastating blow to people's livelihoods everywhere. The International Labour Organization has recorded that across the world, a total of 255 million persons have lost their jobs. In our own hotel industry here, we are looking at between taxi service, hotel workers, those who do massage, the braiders, and all the bars, some 3,000 persons or so who had been impacted. Never before have so many persons around the world had such a difficult experience, psychological, mental, physical, and of course, financial in terms of its impact upon one's income. And that is why we have to be in this together. This is one of the reasons that we have been putting forward the view very strongly that we need equitable distribution of vaccines, because until everyone is vaccinated, none of us really can achieve the benefit. And that is where the principle of herd immunity imposes upon every responsible person to do it not just for yourselves, but to do it for your household, do it for your workplace, do it for your country. And the best each of us can do, we talk about the vial coming with 10 dose minimum, is to ensure when we look in our homes, do we have 70% of the people there vaccinated? When we look in our workplaces, do we have 70% of the people there vaccinated? When we count ZIZ staff, do we have 70% of them vaccinated? And if the answer is not, we have to do something. The leaders have to take the lead in this. And that is why Dr. Wilkinson, followed by Dr. Laws, and 25 plus doctors on the very first day undertook to show by example that this was critical, to stabilize the economy, and of course to prevent our health systems from being overwhelmed. All over the world now, well, not all over, but remarkably in some of the more advanced countries, we are seeing what they are describing as a third wave of infection. And what they are saying to us, the longer you take to get to herd immunity, you're going to allow for new variants to come. The new variants, as they mutate, they are becoming more deadly, more transmissible, etc. So there's a lot at stake in getting the people vaccinated as quickly as they can. And of course, we are doing very well, but we cannot become complacent. Complacent will steal every opportunity we have to get the economy back on track. I recall in March, and at the end of 2020, well, it would have been 2019, the pandemic struck us in March, we had the largest number of employees ever on the record of Social Security. We had the largest number of contributors in the history of Social Security. Over 30,000 plus persons were contributing. And we had the largest number of persons engaged in self-employment. We had the highest level of wages being paid in the country in the history of Social Security, hovering at $1 billion. These were significant indicators of a country on the move. And then suddenly we heard that COVID-19 had come. In March, we had one of the best months in terms of tax collection. In April, we collected $4 million. The worst collection in a lifetime we have had. The worst collection, $4 million. It indicated the impact. In the fisheries sector, they lost 82% of their production in April alone. Some of it as a result of the lockdowns, fishers couldn't get at sea, but also the loss of markets, because the hotel sector was an important consumer of our fisheries product. And so when we begin to do things that get the country to work again, put people to work, allow greater incomes to flow in the country, we are really assisting a broad cross-section of sectors, including agriculture, including fisheries, including retail trade. And that is why we are putting now a premium attention to the recovery efforts. I want to thank Raquel Brown for coming and giving the perspective of an expert in the tourism sector about the urgency for all players to get on board. We really can't opt out. We have to opt in. We have to voluntarily do the right thing and be focused on all the implications. In my presentation, I spoke to and questions came and I'm happy that that resonated. We have about 5 developers who have invested significantly in the country. Their hope of starting to make money is dependent on their properties being able to open. And so, for the good of the country and all that that can do to tourism in terms of our attractiveness as a destination, marked by the quality of hotels that we have, marked by the number of rooms that we have, we want to commend them. John Zuliani at the Royal St. Kitts Hotel, in another 4 to 6 weeks, one of the additional property he had started, described as the Cove, will open, bringing a number of high-end rooms available to the hotel stock. And he has already started the luxury villa development. These properties, I'm advised, should be going to market at no less than $1 million. So I want to thank him for that confidence. And of course, thereafter, things go well, he will start a second plaza of the type we have at the front of the property. So that is good confidence. But most importantly, in the meantime, our young people and not so young persons who are getting jobs in the construction sector. And this is critical. Construction is the largest driver of growth in our country. And therefore, whenever we see construction activity, those of us who are in the financial management of the country, we feel some joy. Social security benefits when people are at work, and so that is a good sign. I want to commend Mr. David Flesher and his partner, Chris. They are the persons behind the Trinity Sunset Luxury Hotel. This is a really classy, high-end property in the Trinity area, and will do a lot of wonderful things for St. Kitts and Nevis. The Ramada has been with us. It would be one of the largest hotel properties, and we are optimistic, cautiously so, that by year-end, as promised, they would at long last open this property. The COVID-19, of course, provided a setback for almost every business, this one included. We are cautiously optimistic too that the Fairway Group will be doing that major condominium development in Frigate Bay. So there is good news, but the best news would really be that more of our people move to get vaccinated. I intend to advise the Financial Secretary that we shall move to put $15 million for home construction, first-time homeowners in the next couple of months to add a further boost to the economic activity in our country. And a further $3 million we will put to assist small business. Not to get into taxi business, because there is no need for any more. It's now overbooked and over service. So these will have to be real, viable, creative projects. This $3 million will not be going to buy any more buses, because again, it doesn't make sense at this particular moment in time. And we have had the tendency really, as one person see something looks successful, then another one want to get, and we have an overcrowding of participants, dividing the pie too small for either of them to survive. So these are two further positive developments that the government can take and will take to boost confidence in the economy, put more men and women at work, and create opportunities for small and medium-sized businesses. I want to basically end on a note of commendation to say thank you for the 11 retired nurses who I gather returned to help us in our vaccination build-out. I do not know all of their names, but Nurse Sylvia Isaac of Frigate Bay delivered several babies for my mother. And so it was a pleasure last time I visited Newtown to see her there. And I think the other nurse with her was a Miss Nurse Coker. Which one? Okay. So I want to thank to all 11. Sylvia is special. She's from my hometown, so I would not forget her. And as I said many times, I had to go to say my mother was calling her to deliver. One of us, well, one after me. So again, I want to say thanks. But there are some persons who have taken on the task of advocating, of encouraging people to go and get their vaccination. I have a very good friend I have to hail up, Janice Prentice from Mansion. Janice has been going door to door in Mansion and Christchurch, trying to convince people to go. And I want to commend my good friend, my Rasta brethren, Vince Matthew, who on Monday went house to house with me in Lodge Village to again encourage others. I must thank Dr. Cameron Wilkerson, because while there was a lady with allergies and other complications she thought she should not. I had heard the question asked at the Otleys Community Center Vaccination Town Hall, and so I said, all right, let me call the doctor. And luckily on this occasion he answered. There was a time I tried to get him and I couldn't get him, so I lose out. But he answered and he spoke to her, and I was very pleased today to learn that she went and she got her vaccines. So I want to thank her very much for doing so, and to thank her neighbors who also went along with her. In doing this, I want to commend two nurses, Noreen Gabriel of Tabernacle, who last Saturday was at the Tabernacle Health Center, showed a lot of patience as I went about to give her 10 persons so that those who I had sent there would not have to be told to come back the next day. In fact, luckily we delivered to her 12. So that was a very useful exercise that took me again in the alleyways. But I want to thank all those who cooperated and to help us add to the numbers. Doris Bratcher, nurse from Parsons, I think she is at the Molyneux Health Center, and she has been doing a good job. We've been speaking to her. In fact, some of the names that I booked on Monday, I send those to her and say, please reach out to them, call, and let them know. Some people could not make it to the health center, and I'm happy today that Nurse Bratcher went into the community. I believe she delayed in sending in the data for that particular section, but I can advise that she did 20 persons today, which is very good. And some of them were those who had committed in Lodge that they would be going. Additionally, she went into Christchurch. I want to thank my constituents who have cooperated and say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. On a less happy note, I want to extend condolences, sympathies to the family, friends, and well-wishers of former matron Sylvia Garnett. Nurse Garnett, as I know her, has been a wonderful person, and she gave prayerful support to everyone with whom she would have come into contact. So my sympathy is extended to the family and all the well-wishers. I want to end by where the Chief Medical Officer ended. Our only hope, if we are going to have a safe and sustainable recovery, is for each of us, 18 and over, to get ourselves vaccinated as soon as possible. Tomorrow the country shall benefit. Hopefully all goes well. No supply chain challenges with 21,600 doses of the vaccines. I want for you to hurry this week and see how much of that we can use. About a week or day after, we shall begin the second dose. And I want to be among the first to have my second dose, and then I'll count 14 days and I will be fully vaccinated. And I shall have a difficulty with persons who have not yet taken their first dose. And we are going to see in business, in the government service and elsewhere, that people will insist, as they did with the mask, that those with whom they have to interact, that they should also be vaccinated. And they would be in their right to make such an insistence. COVID-19 has said to us that we have to change the way we do many things. And it is really not just about us. It is not just about your rights, it's about other people's rights too. And what you do or do not do can compromise other people's right to a peaceful existence and a healthy living. So I want each of us to be considerate and to do the right thing. Vaccinate now. May God continue to bless this beautiful country, and may He continues to favor St. Kitts and Nevis with love and all the wonderful things. Thank you very much again for being part of this program.
And thank you so much, Mr. Prime Minister. I too would like to offer my deepest sympathies to the family and friends of Nurse Garnett. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Prime Minister, I believe she was a regular contributor to the program, and what struck me about her was I've never met her in person, but by her voice and how she sounds when she calls in, you could tell she was a very energetic and engaging woman, and she always had words of motivation to give to not only our panelists but the people of the country, and so it's very sad to learn of her passing. I would like to thank the persons who contributed to the program, whether you called or you sent a message. I know we have an incredibly large listenership. Thank you so much for joining us on a week-to-week basis and making the show a success every week. Leadership Matters airs weekly right here on ZIZ and other contributing partnering radio stations and other stations from 8 p.m. So we look forward to you joining us next time. Enjoy the rest of your evening.